My name is Hannah Foster. I'm 32, and for as long as I can remember, I've believed life rewards those who quietly shoulder the burdens no one else wants to touch, those who mend the invisible cracks while the world keeps turning, oblivious. My apartment in San Diego was small, neat, almost sterile, reflecting me, functional, orderly, invisible to anyone who wasn't paying close attention. I work in a modest logistics company. Nothing glamorous. Computers don't play favorites, and deadlines never ask for excuses. Life, in many ways, felt easier when it didn't demand I defend my place in it. Then came the day I realized the life I thought I shared with my family wasn't mine at all. My younger sister, Emily, erased me, not slowly, not subtly, but with precision. A wedding in Santa Barbara, a string of carefully curated Instagram stories, and suddenly I was no longer part of her world. Her words were deliberate. We've only invited the people who are truly important to us. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. My fingers hovered over my phone, numb. Important. Important to whom? To her, apparently. I was not. I thought of everything I had done for Emily. The late-night consolations when heartbreak left her breathless. The years she spent crashing on my couch while she studied, while I paid her utility bills and her first laptop. The master's degree she earned with my tuition. The countless sacrifices. Friendships put aside, vacations postponed, dreams shelved. And yet, she had announced her wedding without a single word to me. No text, no call, not even a whisper of inclusion. I asked my mother. Of course, I asked, even with my throat tight and hands shaking. Her response was a rehearsed sigh, a superior tilt of the head. Hannah, it's just a wedding. Don't make it bigger than it is. It wasn't just a wedding. It was the sentence that pierced me to the core, the one that burned hotter than any slight. Only the people who are truly important to us. Important. I had been her shield, her comfort, her emotional lifeline, and now I was invisible. That night, while the family group chat exploded with memes about wedding preparations and countdowns, I did something I never imagined I would. I booked a solo trip to Miami, first class, ocean view, a resort that promised sun, waves, and silence. Before closing my suitcase, I posted a story. Just a glass of champagne against the sunset, infinity pool stretching toward the horizon. Sometimes family isn't where you were born. It's where you finally feel at peace. The phone blew up within 20 minutes. Missed calls, frantic messages, and that was only the beginning. Miami welcomed me with open arms and an unfamiliar kind of quiet. Not the suffocating, indifferent quiet of a family dinner where no one listens. Not the chatter of distant relatives who talk over you as if your existence is optional. No, this was silence as a sanctuary. For the first few days, I walked the beaches alone, let the waves curl around my feet, swam until the salt burned my lungs, drank white wine as the sun sank beneath the horizon. I turned off notifications, stopped checking messages. I allowed myself the audacity of peace. But even the past has long arms. On the third day, curiosity clawed at me. I peeked at my phone. 48 unread messages, 11 missed calls, a new post from Emily, smiling, radiant, counting down the hours with cousins, distant uncles, a great aunt in Brazil, everyone except me. My throat tightened, my chest ached, and then came the familiar cold hand of manipulation. My mother's message, "Sweetheart, don't take it like that. It's just a wedding. Don't be dramatic." No, it wasn't just a wedding. It was a declaration. I wasn't part of her circle. I didn't bring her prestige. I was no longer of use. And for the first time in my life, I felt something I had long denied: anger. I posted another photo. Me in the hotel's infinity pool, a glass of champagne in hand. Caption: "Sometimes walking away is the only way to breathe again." New life, #no filters. The flood of messages continued. Aunt Margaret, the only one who ever offered warmth, pleading for me to be gentle, to not add fuel to the fire. But I remained silent. My choice was no longer about family, it was about self-preservation. By the 5th day, I felt it, the first taste of freedom. The first pulse of joy, not tied to sacrifice, not bound to guilt, not tethered to people who saw me only when convenient. And yet, beneath it all, the ache of betrayal lingered. The realization that the family who once demanded my unwavering loyalty had no place for me in their moments of celebration. I closed my eyes and let the waves whisper to me, "You are enough. You are not invisible here." Miami moved slowly, lazily, like the ocean itself. For the first time in years, I woke without the reflexive dread of a family crisis waiting for me. My mornings were long and quiet. Coffee on the balcony, the sun warming my shoulders, the faint scent of salt in the air. I let myself linger in each moment, savoring the sheer absence of obligation. I turned off notifications completely. The phone felt heavy in my pocket, a tether I no longer needed. And yet, inevitably, the messages began to pour in. My mother first, insistent, demanding, sweet one moment, cold the next. "Hannah, it's only polite to respond. Emily is upset. She needs you." The words blurred into a familiar echo. I used to be the fixer, the shoulder, the always available crutch. Not anymore. Then came my father. His tone, as always, was neutral, careful, distant. "Hannah, don't take it personally. These things get complicated." Complicated. I wanted to laugh at how neatly he disguised indifference as diplomacy. I thought of every time I had called on him, every request for support, every moment I was met with silence or polite dismissal. My phone vibrated incessantly, each buzz another tug on the chains I had been slowly cutting. I ignored them all. The relief of choice was intoxicating. For once, I could decide if anyone's demands deserved my attention. And they didn't. Aunt Margaret's voice was different, warm, cautious, pleading. "Hannah, dear, don't add fuel. Your sister is nervous. It's her big day." I didn't respond. For once, I didn't have to justify my absence or my anger. For once, I wasn't responsible for someone else's happiness. And yet, Emily's presence haunted the digital spaces I had tried to leave behind. Her Instagram posts were careful, curated perfection. Flowers, gowns, laughter, her friends' radiant smiles, and always, conspicuously, the absence of me. She had erased me from her life with precision, and the cut was deeper than any argument or fight. I walked along the water, letting the sand sift between my toes, each step a quiet affirmation. I am choosing myself. I am more than the role they assigned me. I let the sun and the waves stitch the tears of years spent unnoticed. By the fourth day, I allowed myself small indulgences, spa treatments, massages, long swims at dawn. Each session was a rebellion against the expectations I had carried too long. Each stroke of warm hands on tense muscles whispered, "You are allowed to exist for yourself." And then I posted the second photo, infinity pool, sunset in the background, a glass of champagne held high. Caption, #self-care, #not available. A declaration of autonomy. The messages kept coming, but I didn't look. I let them pile up, unread, irrelevant. That night, lying on the balcony, I reflected on what it meant to finally choose peace. The betrayal still stung. Emily had not simply excluded me from a wedding. She had, in one sentence, declared me unimportant. My mother's dismissive, cold words had only confirmed it. But there was power in the silence I embraced. A strange, intoxicating relief in finally removing myself from a system that thrived on my self-sacrifice. For the first time, I imagined a life without their interference, without the expectation that I would always be present, always available, always giving. The thought was dizzying, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. The days blurred into sun and sea, each one a meditation on what freedom felt like. I stopped checking the family group chat entirely. I let the notifications stack up in digital oblivion. They could shout, they could plead, they could try to manipulate. It no longer mattered. And somewhere beneath the warmth of the Miami sun, I realized something crucial. I was not being cruel. I was not abandoning anyone. I was setting boundaries, claiming space I had never allowed myself before. For the first time in decades, I felt the possibility of joy without guilt. In those quiet moments, I understood a painful truth. Sometimes, the people who should cherish you most are the ones who wound you deepest. And the only way to survive, the only way to breathe again, is to step away. By the time I returned to my hotel room each evening, I was lighter. Lighter than I had been in years. The messages, the calls, the frantic pleas, all faded into the background. I began to see myself as I truly was, capable, deserving, independent. And I knew that the coming days, Emily's wedding, the chaos that would unfold, the eventual fallout, would be mine to witness only on my terms. I had chosen the distance, and with it came a new clarity. I was done being invisible. Saturday morning in Miami arrived like any other, sunlight spilling over the balcony, waves rolling lazily onto the sand, the faint cry of seagulls above. I sipped my coffee slowly, relishing the absence of expectation, the quiet of a life unclaimed by others. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, my younger sister Emily's world was unraveling. Curiosity, a small, irresistible ember, drew me to my phone. Her Instagram stories were pristine, perfect, carefully curated, floral arrangements, bridesmaids laughing, the gleaming white of her gown. The captions were gentle, celebratory, the public mask of joy. I felt a twinge of something familiar, an echo of old loyalty. Then it happened. The first video came in from a cousin. I hesitated, fingers hovering. Then I pressed play. Emily was at the altar. Music swelled. The congregation clapped politely. The groom, stiff, tense, froze mid-step. He whispered something inaudible. She leaned in. He didn't answer. Instead, he turned abruptly, walked out. Just like that. Chaos erupted. Screams, cries, people standing in stunned silence. The pastor froze. Security rushed forward, but the groom shoved them aside. The camera wobbled, fell. Guests scattered, confusion and panic spreading like wildfire. The carefully constructed wedding facade collapsed in seconds. I watched the video again, and again, and again. Each time, the same disbelief, the same shock, but also a slow, growing satisfaction. Not in cruelty, but in truth. For years, I had endured Emily's manipulations, late-night calls, tears, demands, heartbreaks she never acknowledged. And now, for once, the world saw a fracture she could not control. The cause was clear. Someone had discovered recent messages from her ex-girlfriend. Messages she had not shared, kept secret even from those closest to her. The groom had confronted her minutes before the ceremony, papers in hand, evidence exposed. Emily had no defense. The perfect day, destroyed. I let myself smile quietly, sipping wine as I watched the videos. Not gloating, not cruel, simply relieved. The family that once demanded my constant sacrifice had finally been reminded that actions have consequences. The messages poured in. Aunt Susan, panic-stricken. "Hannah, please respond. Emily is a mess. We need you." I ignored them. My mother. "Hannah, this has been a disaster. Your sister needs you." Silence remained my shield. Later, a voice message from Brandon, my cousin's husband, explained everything. Printed papers, revealed secrets, confrontation, all leading to the collapse of a meticulously planned event. And I remembered all the times I had been there for Emily, the times I had stayed silent, held space, supported her through heartbreaks she never acknowledged. Now, the roles had reversed. I didn't feel sorry for her, not really. I felt the justified anger of years of being used and ignored. For the first time, I didn't have to fix anything. I didn't have to comfort, explain, or apologize. I had stepped away, and in that distance, I found serenity. I booked a massage session that afternoon, letting the tension melt. Turquoise water stretched behind me as the therapist's hands kneaded the knots from shoulders that had carried far too much for far too long. I posted a photo, robe, drink in hand, hashtagged, #selfcare, #not available. The world could spin in chaos. I would remain untouched, at peace, beyond reach. Miami had given me something my family never could: silence, solitude, and the quiet thrill of autonomy. While Santa Barbara burned, I breathed freely. The wedding was a disaster, yes, but in that disaster lay clarity. I was done being the invisible one, the fixer, the crutch. And so I stayed in Miami a little longer, letting the sun burn away old guilt, letting the waves wash away the weight of family demands. Every message ignored, every plea unacknowledged, reinforced a simple truth. I was no longer available to be the emotional lifeline for those who only called when convenient. That night, lying on the balcony, I watched the horizon swallow the last of the sun and realized, for the first time in decades, I was free. Not from responsibility, but from the tyranny of expectation. Not from love, but from exploitation. And for the first time, it felt like a gift. Returning to San Diego felt like stepping into a different life. My old apartment in Austin had been a trap of nostalgia and obligation, papers to sort, unfinished business, constant reminders of a family that never truly valued me. I emptied the apartment quickly, systematically, leaving nothing behind that could tether me to their world. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't make phone calls. I didn't leave notes. I simply left. The same way they had erased me from Emily's wedding. Sudden, final, unannounced. The first morning in my new San Diego studio apartment, I brewed coffee and looked around at the small, quiet space. No one demanded anything of me. No one asked for explanations, apologies, or attention. For the first time, I was truly alone again, and it was liberating. The family group chat had swelled with missed calls and unread messages. My mother, frantic, had already attempted to reach me. My father, as always, remained silent. Emily had sent messages, apologies masked as desperation, seeking my emotional labor yet again. I ignored everything. I made a choice. Boundaries would no longer be negotiable. I closed the joint accounts that had once funneled my money into family obligations. I updated my will, removed them as beneficiaries, and ensured that no financial thread could tie me to their expectations again. Every move was deliberate, a declaration that my life and resources belonged to me, and only me. When my mother showed up at my door unannounced, coffee in hand, I didn't flinch. She attempted the performance she had always used to manipulate me. Guilt, sorrow, charm, all to elicit a response, to pull me back into the fold. "Hannah, are you really going to do this? We're family." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the act for what it was. I said nothing for a long moment. Then, slowly, firmly, "You had your chance. I am no longer part of this family. Not the way you wanted me. I am done." It hurt. The words, the finality, the acknowledgement that the family I had devoted my life to didn't see me. But it hurt less than continuing the cycle of self-erasure. Weeks turned into months. The distance became a shield. No one could call me in the middle of the night to demand attention. No one could manipulate me with guilt, shame, or obligation. I was finally allowed to exist as myself, fully and unapologetically. Emily's messages continued sporadically, apologies dripping with desperation, pleas thinly veiled as remorse. I didn't respond. If she ever wanted to repair the relationship, it would be on my terms, not hers. My terms meant dignity, respect, and boundaries. By the 6th month, I had fully immersed myself in a life that was mine alone. Remote work, early morning runs along the beach, evenings spent reading and writing, laughter unmediated by guilt. The constant anxiety of being needed evaporated. I slept through the nights for the first time in decades. Occasionally, I caught whispers of family drama from afar, Emily struggling to maintain her new apartment, juggling temporary jobs, navigating the fallout of a life she had mismanaged while I had remained the steady anchor. Did I feel sorry? A little. But it wasn't my responsibility. My responsibility was me, and for once, I took it seriously. For the first time, I understood what it meant to choose yourself over family, to prioritize your own well-being over toxic obligation. And with that choice came a simple truth. Peace is not found in pleasing everyone. It is found in refusing to be diminished by those who refuse to value you. In that small San Diego studio, I finally breathed. 6 months had passed since I walked away. 6 months without late-night calls, frantic texts, or the expectation that I would always be available. 6 months of breathing without guilt. 6 months of living for myself for the first time in decades. The first few days had been the hardest. My body remembered reflexively to prepare for demands, to answer cries for help, to fix problems that weren't mine. But gradually, the silence became a balm. I woke, made coffee, worked remotely, ran along the beach, read, wrote, laughed. and no one questioned it. No one demanded explanations, apologies, or attention. Occasionally, messages trickled in. Emily, hesitant, apologetic. I know I have no right, but I'm sorry. I made mistakes. I read them, left them unread. Then my mother's email arrived, sweet, pleading. We all make mistakes. What matters is forgiveness. I didn't reply. Not out of pride, but because forgiveness is not a duty. It's a choice, and it was no longer mine to grant on their terms. I ran into them by accident one sunny afternoon at a cafe. Emily, my mother, my father, all there, surprised to see me, awkward, unsure. Emily looked down. My father waved faintly, distant. My mother approached, still performing sorrow. Hannah, aren't you going to say hello? I did not. I took a sip of my coffee, feeling the warmth seep into my hands. Calmly, firmly, I said what had needed saying for years. I already have a family. The people who respect me, the ones who don't use me. You had your chance. You lost it. For a moment, they froze. Then they dispersed, murmuring, retreating. I watched them go, letting the scene settle into its rightful place. I was no longer theirs to claim, no longer trapped by their expectations, no longer invisible. Life continued, uninterrupted by their drama. Emily struggled, facing the consequences of choices I had long foreseen. My mother continued her performance for outsiders, unaware that I was no longer present to validate it. My father remained silent, as he always had, and I thrived. My small apartment became a sanctuary. Work flowed, laughter returned, mornings stretched luxuriously. I ran along the water, wrote late into the night, and allowed myself to be fully seen. By myself first, and only by myself until I chose otherwise. Friends, clients, even strangers acknowledged me with warmth and respect I had longed for my entire life. I discovered the rare joy of existing without explanation, without obligation, without guilt. Sometimes people ask if I feel guilty for walking away. The answer is no. What I feel is freedom. Freedom that comes at the cost of a family that never saw me, never respected me, and never valued me. And now freedom tastes like the sea at dawn, like the soft glow of morning light in my studio, like laughter that isn't tethered to someone else's approval. I am Hannah Foster. I am 32. I am finally, irrevocably mine.